Hello. I hope that you're doing all right this evening or morning, whichever time of day it is. I wanted to kind of give a introduction as to how I do session zeros and maybe a session 0.5. I don't know. I have two different session zeros, really. The first session zero is one where I ask the group that's wanting to play with me um, what kind of adventure are they looking for? And specifically in a space or sci-fi setting, you definitely want to ask them this question because the interesting thing with space and sci-fi is that the boundaries are literally limitless. So, for instance, you could start on a space station, and the entire adventure could be one massive adventure that takes place on a space station that's overrun by flesh-eating aliens. I don't know. You could have one where the players just explore, and there's some sort of a I don't know, explorers and looking for ancient relics. They could be maybe a special forces group that is assigned to uh, try and reestablish communication with the core Earth worlds from far outreach, their far outflung, uh, deserted planet. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of different things. So the point being is that in a sci-fi setting, and actually they could even be kept at home and in a single planet and have a sci-fi setting there. So the point is that your opportunities with a sci-fi setting are literally limitless. So it's very important to try and maybe have some options for your players because a lot of times they won't really have their own ideas. So maybe give them 5 or 6 options, and then whenever they have one that they kind of like, just ask maybe if there's anything that they'd want to change about it, things like that. So for this playthrough that me and my players are doing with Stars Without Number, one of the options that they chose was because of the setting that we're in. Um, we will be starting a little over 1,000 years after the Scream, and the planet that they're on is called Emotep, and the queen that rules over Emotep is attempting to reestablish communication with the homeworlds. And the way she's going to do that is with the help of a a very organized and elite group of individuals that will essentially be like a special forces team that is going to system hop their way back to what she believes is the most likely place to reestablish communication. So they were of the choices that I gave them, this is the one they selected, and I was pretty happy with that because I felt like that one kind of kept things really open, gave a lot of opportunities for me. Um, and also we did something a little bit different, which is that we had a level 0 session as well. So since they are being handpicked, we'll say that these guys are handpicked from the uh, the most elite on the planet Emotep. We had essentially a competition, and basically, I I had them roll their abilities, ability scores, and we did it in the way that they roll a 3d6 for each, and whatever it rolls, they have to keep. And I had them take three different characters off the bat, and so they rolled three different characters, and so that was kind of fun in that inevitably they have one character that is pretty good. They have on average, right? On average, they'll have one character that's pretty good, one character that's average, and then one character that really sucks, right? I believe that actually my friend Justin may have had just the worst rolls ever, and so like all three of his characters really sucked. Um, but anyhow, the way that I kind of help fix this is at the end of the session, whenever they establish who their main character is going to be, I allow them to reroll one ability score that they don't like. So yeah. So what is the level session zero? What is the level 0 session? The level 0 session is really a competition of each of the 6 different attributes, and yeah, based off of how they roll. The way that I handle the skill checks is the stars without number system is 2d6 plus the relevant ability modifier. Okay, so there's strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, right? And so each of their characters will participate in each system, in each competition, and based off the roles, different things happen. So for and you can change this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to have this many different competitions, but here's some ideas. So the ideas that I came up with was a weightlifting competition, face off in one-on-one combat. Those are the 2 strength checks, dexterity checks, an obstacle course, or running a gauntlet where they have different the opposing players attempting to shoot at them. Constitution checks. The players are given different toxins, and most aren't lethal to normal people, and whoever doesn't pass out gets scored accordingly. And so this one was I really like this one, so I'll go into just a little bit of detail. So for instance, the DC check for the first purple vial is a DC 6. And then the green vial is a DC 8, red vial DC 10, white vial DC 12. This one was really entertaining because my players were like really didn't want to do this one. And so like seeing them squirm and stuff was just so much fun. It was great. Another one is Hell Week, which is essentially having the players throw checks and sort of narrating how the week goes. Intelligence checks, technical skill checks, having them repair a control board, things like this. Or I also did one where the characters have to research historical records, and based off those historical records, they then actually give a speech. And so this ties into the charisma check that I eventually do. And during the speech, uh, it, they they kind of tie together, right? And so based off how well they do on the speech, they get scored. Wisdom checks. Uh, Players have to spot a camouflaged creatures that are in an enclosed area, and then or they can prioritize healing on 4 patients. Uh, those are the 2 wisdom checks. I already mentioned one charisma check, and there's also one charisma check based on war games, which is sort of to sort of help them maybe convey leadership skills. So the way that I do the scoring, usually 4 to 6 is a single point, 7 to 9 is 2 points, 10 to 12 is 3 points, and higher than 12 is 4 points. That's one way that you can do it. And on each type of, I guess, competition, on each type of ability score check that you're going to do, you definitely want to try and narrate what's going on. So, for instance, on one of the competitions that I had for the weightlifting was the bench press. And so if somebody is able to only rolls a 4 or a 6, then then you would say, well, your character only is able to max out at 115 pounds. They're not very strong. Although if for whatever reason they roll higher than a 12 because of their ability score, and they also roll a double 6, then your character is just repping 315 pounds, right? So they're a monster. Uh, what I do with most of these, anytime that there's a chance, I always try and create an environment where there's a chance that something could go drastically wrong that could kill the player's character. So, for example, on the bench press, if you roll a 3 or less, yeah, the bar drops on the character's chest, collapsing the rib cage and killing the character. So usually, what I do is I don't usually kill them outright. what I'll do is I'll say, "Well, you just dropped the bar on your neck," or something like that, and then I'll say, "Now you've got to roll me a d20. If you roll high, then the medics that are in the room are able to get to you and stabilize you in time before you die. If you roll low, then your character dies." And so that's the reason why you can actually see a few struck out names here on the list where we had a few characters that died. My cousin Chuck, I believe that his first character, let's see, he had a character that died, looks like, on the intelligence check. Yeah. So, um, let's see. No, that well, maybe it wasn't the intelligence check. I believe he may have had one. His died on the wisdom check. That's right. I remember now. So his died on the wisdom check because whenever his character was looking through the enclosed area, it's essentially like a zoo, and his character had to spot different animals as he walked through the area of the zoo, right? And so basically, based off the roll, for example, 4 to 6 is you're able to find a single creature. 7 to 9, you're able to spot most of the creatures. 10 to 12, you spot all of them except the most elusive, and then over 12, you spot all of them, even the most elusive of the animals. But if you roll a 3 or a less, uh, you didn't see any creatures, and if you roll snake eyes, then you accidentally step on a two-step death rattler that accidentally was allowed into the enclosure, and your character dies. But again, in this case, if he gets if he gets bitten, then he has the chance to do a 50-50 roll essentially to see if his character dies. Well, Dang Lin Wang apparently did die. Uh, my friend Justin, he had a character that ended up dying. I believe his actually died from. I believe his may have actually died from the toxin check. Uh, so, for instance, if you roll anytime that you roll Snake Eyes, that's exceptionally bad, right? So, uh, one of his characters actually did roll Snake Eyes and ended up dying because they weren't able to effectively find it. So these are just some ideas. It turned out to be really fun. It turned out to kind of it also gives the impression to the players that yeah, you're going to be playing a dangerous game, right? So they have to be thinking out of the box whenever they're playing. They have to really try and avoid combat if they can, and yeah, try and think of ways that they can protect their character. So that's kind of how I did the level 0 session as well as our session 0. I also would recommend, if you're playing with your friends that you really know, you don't have to worry so much about establishing rules and boundaries because you already kind of know what their rules and boundaries are, right? So, um, I definitely would recommend reaching out to your players and trying to understand if they're people that you've never really played with before and don't really know. I've never played with a group like that, but I would have to imagine that I would kind of ask them what their expectations are. What are their goals? Are they wanting to be a spaceship commander? Are they wanting to deal in trade? Are they wanting to just fight? Do they like RP quite a bit? Uh, do they like stealthy stuff? Do they like rumors and having to sort of uh, puzzle through different things to try and solve crime? Or I don't know. All of those you can implement into your game, but you want to try and figure out what your players are interested in. So yeah, I definitely would recommend trying to talk to them in that regard. Make sure you're all on the same page. It definitely, I don't, in any of my games, I don't use any sort of, yeah, I I don't go into details about things like rape and, you know, child murder or anything like that. I find that it's really distasteful in a game. Um, and if there is an undertone in that regard, like if it is a really dark planet, for instance, and there's a lot of lawlessness and a lot of evil that exists because evil does exist in these games, and it should exist in the universe, in the world that you create. And if that evil does exist, then you don't have to go into details about it. I usually am just like, such and such is happening. You guys can kind of read between the lines of what I'm trying to convey here. Um, at the end of the day, the point you're trying to get across is that the creatures or people that your characters are going against are evil, right? And that's the most important thing. You want to convey that what they're facing is evil, and that what they're doing, you want to try and give your characters, your player characters, something to die for, right? Because that makes their deaths that much more acceptable. Because nobody likes for their characters to die, but whenever you give them something to die for, it makes sense, right? So I hope that maybe you guys can kind of appreciate my kind of way of thinking for the session zero and the level zero. It was a lot of fun. At the end of, I think I mentioned that at the end of the level zero, if you had characters that weren't particularly strong, then I did allow them to reroll one attribute. But if they somehow rolled worse, then they had to stick with it. And so we did all the rolls in public. They know I do all my rolls in public essentially. So, uh, yeah, I if you don't mind, give some of your level zero ideas or your session zero ideas out there. Uh, I'm always really interested to find out how people do it. There's not many people that I've found that do a level zero session, but from my experience, they're a lot of fun, and they help to sort of develop a story background for your character as well. So I definitely would recommend it. Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. If you've made it this far, if you like the content, hit like and subscribe. If not, well, I'm doing this a lot for my own enjoyment. I enjoy kind of talking through my thoughts and revisiting a lot of the things that happened along the way that I've been doing these games. So I hope you have a good day. I really hope that if you have friends and family in Ukraine and Russia, I really hope that they stay safe. Um, the idea that the idea of war is a terrible one. I believe that there is such thing as a just war, and maybe I believe that Ukraine is fighting a just war. I'm not sure that Russia is. Um, but who am I? I'm just a nobody here in North America, looking at things across the sea and seeing the troubles and being very thankful that I live where I live. Despite the hardships that we are going through this year, despite the difficulties, they're nothing compared to some of the people that uh, are alive in different parts of the world. So I'm very thankful for that. I hope that you guys stay safe, and I hope to see you again. Thanks.